Remember when we kind of started, kind of like with jokes from like a show. Remember Jury Duty? We kind of joked about it a little bit. But do you remember after that, the very first question I asked y'all? Figure I know it's been like 4 months. I don't know if it's
God be the glory. They restored me on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. I appreciate you. We live on YouTube.
What does a murderer look like? Remember? What?
So just to give you a heads up, YouTube, we're basically watching the prosecutors now closing statement. You did miss a lot of the rest of the closing statement from the defense, but I just want you to know that it's another whole hour part that we will be going over later. This is just to talk to YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for letting me come back on. No, it wasn't spam. Please hit the like button, whoever's watching. Appreciate you guys.
What does a murderer look like? And you answered me. You said it could be like anyone, remember? Well, now you know. And remember, you had like a pink blanket on? Remember that? To represent the presumption of innocence? How does it look now? That pink blanket's nowhere around. Because y'all have heard all of the evidence. And you know, I've heard a lot of accusations here today. Desperate, reckless, how dare they? My mom told me a long time ago is when you don't have the substance of an argument, you start name calling. And that's what happened here in the last 45 minutes. I hear a lot of picking at people, criticizing people. I heard dumb twice while ignoring the evidence. So for my last moments, do you mind if I talk to you about the evidence?
And this
that they ignored?
This is going to be a great breakdown of the circumstantial evidence that they have. And I have to highlight it. It's circumstantial, but the way he lays it out, it makes sense. Let's listen.
Oh, no. Let's talk about the days leading up to the murders. We have a rubbing alcohol bottle with gasoline in it. Have you thought the steps that would have taken? By his own admission, there's no gasoline in the house. So he took that rubbing alcohol bottle, he got gasoline in it, he poured it across the top step of the second floor where his parents reside. His sister is staying with the grandparents. There's only 3 of them there. Then he lights it on fire. And by the way, I feel like based on both lawyers' comments, they didn't pay attention to the evidence. What the experts said is the alcohol would have burned off. Do y'all remember that? And it smelled of gasoline. Logically, y'all know gasoline was poured across it. A burn mark doesn't happen that way. Is this something a normal 16-year-old?
Now, I'm a little confused about this, the gasoline, and is it actually alcohol? Because he's saying that they didn't find any rubbing alcohol there, but I'm talking about the defense, because you heard they said that. That's why I want to play some of that stuff so you can highlight it. The defense basically said that it wasn't no rubbing alcohol in that location, but he's saying that it was burn marks there. But I don't know if they, I don't know if they test for gasoline. So let's just kind of listen to this a little bit one more time, because I was kind of confused when I was listening. And I'm like, okay, this is where stuff get obscured. Okay, pay attention. Word magic does play a part in this stuff.
They didn't pay attention to the evidence. What the experts said is the alcohol would have burned off. Do y'all remember that? and it smelled of gasoline. Logically, y'all know gasoline was poured across it because a burn mark doesn't happen that way. Is this something a normal 16-year-old would do? Remember, we don't have to prove why, but I can tell you what's in his mind. His mind is he wants to kill his parents. And what does he say? Oh, he's playing with matches.
How long ago was Armstrong? That was Tuesday. What'd y'all put out?
Now, this was very low, guys. I'm sorry, but just try to listen to what AJ is saying.
That includes the low end right there. Yeah. Did you still do it before? No, I didn't know anything was floor. That's the thing I was like confusing to me. I didn't know anything was floor. What's the bottle running alcohol? I'm just asking because the other investigator was out there said that the floor right there's supposed to be soap, which is like sometimes like that, something like that. Yeah, right. That's what me and my dad when like it happened, we both said that it like smelled like gas somewhere and we didn't know where it was coming from.
He knows darn well where it came from.
So was it caught on fire? Did it smell like gas? I'm a little bit confused.
Rubbing alcohol bottle hidden in his sofa. But you don't have to, pay attention to me. Throughout this trial, Dawn Armstrong comes into this courtroom and she talks to us. And what does she say? She sends this text to Josh. And remember that theory about, I was playing with matches? Look what's on the corner of Dawn's picture. A light. So when you're listening to the defendant give his statement, when you listen to the defendant on his 911 call, when you're listening to the evidence, when y'all are back in that jury room debating and deliberating, I need y'all to say, what would Dawn say?
Dawn is his mother.
Because this defendant has the ability to fool everybody, but he couldn't fool Mom. And Mother knows. And Mother knows everything about you. And Dawn Armstrong knew. Next step, search on an iPad. How to detonate a car bomb. A whole lot of discussion about, well, maybe Josh left his iPad, but we know he logged into it.
Okay, so I want to highlight that because I didn't hear that in the first part where they talked about looking at his Google searches. You see what I'm saying? So, like I say, they have a really compelling side, as circumstantial evidence, especially if AJ Jr. was actually doing these things, because that is, I just want to highlight the, playing with matches allegedly, but the gas thing, just that is just weird, and that's not supposed to happen. I'm going to be honest.
Then, the thing they can't escape, the thing they can't walk away from, he shot the murder weapon in his room. Who does that? Is there any other reason to shoot a weapon inside your room, to pillows and a blanket, than it being a test fire?
In there, when you look up, there's bullet holes in the ceiling. They come from the wall. Your bedroom, it comes through the hole from the wall, from your room upstairs. Yeah. Where your room is. The third floor. Yeah. There's a ceiling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he's thinking about what he's going to say. You know what he's doing, right?
So if you didn't hear what they were saying, basically the officer was asking AJ, so where did the bullet hole come from in the ceiling? And he's saying that AJ is trying to contrive a story. And this story consists of him saying it happened a couple of weeks ago. And you're going to listen.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so if you did not hear what he said, is allegedly a couple of weeks ago, he and they're gonna talk about how he switched up this story. Before I say what he said, I just think he did himself a dishonor. He should have never spoke, because literally this is the bread and butter of what they had. So basically he said that a couple of weeks ago he had a friend over, and before the friend was about to leave, he was like, "Hey, you want to know how to shoot a gun?" And the friend's like, "Huh? Yeah, sure." And then he says he tried to do it, I guess, discreetly. So he put it between a pillow and a blanket and shot it, thinking that it was going to stop the bullet, because that's what he said. What stands out to me is if it happened a couple of weeks ago, or a week prior to the actual murders, I think that the kid probably will have some common sense to kind of look to see what happened with the bullet. But let me say this, teenagers do not think the way we think. I got to give you a story. You know, I'm going to tell you a story, just real life, because I deal with kids. I homeschool my kid. It's a whole lot that goes to educating them in their mind. So I don't know. So basically, I had a BB guns in here, and I told them when I go to work, don't go outside with those BB guns. Don't do that. Come to find out, I noticed that the BB guns was moved around. Thank God it was before I actually got physical guns, but my kids was probably like in eighth, ninth grade or so, 10th grade, whatever it may be. I probably like eighth or ninth grade. And my daughter was like, I told him not to do it. I told him not to go outside. And my son went outside and shot the BB gun. And I got on him because one, they were young. They was in like seventh or eighth grade. Okay. So my nanny would check on them, but they wasn't spending the night totally. Okay. I'm just going to keep it real. They're adults now. You got to do what you got to do as a mother. But he was not supposed to be outside with the BB gun, because we knew we had a neighbor that was really nosy. So literally he did something just so out of pocket, I guess, from being bored. I just couldn't even understand. It just didn't make no damn sense to me as an adult. So I'm sharing this story because even though they're trying to shape how you look at AJ specifically based on his behaviors, you kind of got to take it back to reality and how to compare it to how other teenagers his age behave, and the crazy, outlandish, retarded things they say and do. Not taken away from the things that the circumstantial evidence that they have, but I am kind of want to talk about that. Okay. So AJ looking up how to blow up a car bomb out of pocket. Okay, out of pocket. I can't even. To this shooting the gun in the home. Like I said, I told the story personalized, but it's still out of pocket. It's still out of pocket.
And I think you just heard an argument that says there should be some burn mark on the pillow, where there's a hole in the pillow and a hole in the comforter, and he admitted to doing it, and somehow you expect to have a burn mark?
Yes, it should be a burn mark. So if AJ tried to cover up what he did, and that's just talking, I think he would have washed a blanket or something. You see what I'm saying? So it should be a burn mark if you shoot a gun through something. Okay. I'm just saying, y'all experts, if y'all know more than me, tell me no, this is why. Put it in the comments. I appreciate it. So this is why I can, just kind of think maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, because if there's no burn mark specifically, and then also no plaster on the ground from where they saw the hole, that says a lot. That says something. Okay. We're still looking for real evidence. Okay. Not just circumstantial, but they got a lot of good circumstantial evidence.
It's like they don't expect you to listen to the evidence. So anyway, to set it up, the whole reason why he's doing this shot, right, is his friend is over and says, hey, you ever heard of a gun being shot, right? That was his reasoning. So then when they circle back to ask who that friend is, this is the response. Okay, so let me get this straight. The whole reason why you're shooting the gun is so your friend can hear the gun. And then his friend leaves and he shoots the gun anyway.
So he's saying after he was like, okay, so who's the friend? AJ changed his story and said, well, he left and then I shot the gun. This is where I can see a great dilemma coming over the situation. Okay.
The friend doesn't exist. That's the point. Mr. Who, he's brilliant. He's like, oh, but they could have talked to that friend. You can't talk to that friend when they don't exist.
Well, you should have
Don't you
followed
know?
up.
If that person did exist, they would have brought him in.
Part of any investigation, you should follow up on any information that they give you, even if you believe it's a lie, in my opinion. So I do can see why they believe that it was a lie, but they should have got the name of the friend and then start to find out if that friend existed. And that would have proved that, at least by physical evidence, that this friend did not exist. But now this is all circumstantial because it wasn't followed through.
Objection, improper shifting of the burden.
Not shifting the burden at all.
All right, never will.
If he is trying to say, why didn't they ask who the person is? Wouldn't you expect AJ's friend to come in here and say, yeah, let me tell you, it was like 3 weeks before the murder. It was just purely coincidental. And we were in the room and I said, hey, I haven't heard a gun. Can you show me? He goes, yeah, you can show me. But then I left. And apparently he must have shot it again. It's ridiculous.
It is. Kids do ridiculous shit, though. Teenagers do stupid, ridiculous shit. It is ridiculous. Excuse my language.
Ridiculous. What would Dawn say? What if Dawn was in this interview with Dagnall and Dotson? What would Dawn say?
Let me ask you this. You made an interesting statement that you go about what you what your dad's doing. He was gone. We talked about that, but the conversation that I was going that like. So you said that you fired it into a pillow. Where's that pillow? What kind of pillow? It's in my closet. Yeah. You got like a bunch of doors. No, the closet. Yeah, the actual closet. You're gonna see there's an A&M cover that has like a hole. Okay.
So he asked where the pillow is at, and I think he said that like it was thrown away. They don't have the pillow, but they have the blanket in the pillow case. So this is why I can kind of look at this like that situation was aged, because how is the pillow not there, physical pillow? Because they keep talking about a pillow case and sheets, and a burn mark not there. He may have tried to hide it, in my opinion. Just kind of digging into it. Okay.
And why did you shoot it? Like I saw that on the movie, I thought that like stopped the bullet and stuff. That's what I did. You don't worry about your parents here. They are not.
He's right.
He said so his parents wasn't home when it happened.
Something interesting tonight. This is something else that you said that you kind of hold on yourself a little bit. Because you said when you were playing with the gun 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, which originally was with your friend, now it's not with your friend. No, he was there. Like we had the conversation. Well, not when you fired the gun.
Parents weren't home. They'd gone to an event, and they would come back hours later, and then he would kill him.
Circumstantial. This is what he's saying happened.
But remember, he started off, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Then he ends it like this.
Explain away around. You shot the floor 2 or 3 weeks ago. We got fresh sheet rock on the ground, and we got a round still laying on the ground. I mean, your parents use that room constantly. They're gonna notice. If your dad's gonna notice, kind of around on the carpet, he's gonna notice. That's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense. It wasn't in his past. I'm pretty sure it wasn't in his past week. If it wasn't this week, it was last.
2 or 3 weeks, not this week, it was last week. The days up to the murder, gasoline across the top step, setting the house on fire.
I don't know where the total setting the house on fire thing come from. I think it's the gasoline, just the whole thing together, but they didn't really like distinguish that. Okay, I really was trying to get an idea of what was that, 2 different incidents, or was that what he's trying to say with the gasoline or alcohol on the ground?
Searching on the internet how to detonate a car bomb, test firing a weapon. You know what his intent is.
What's up with that?
Then there's the 911 and the staircase. As he's on the phone with 911, he says he hears 2 shots, just heard 2 shots, and this is what he says. Here's two shots, go down the stairs, and the door's cracked, and it's never cracked. Then hours later, he then says,
That's when I came down and I kind of looked, you know, like I did have the little windows down, like you can peek real quick and see like what's like going on from down from my stairs. And when I saw someone like coming out, so I just took off at the stairs, went straight to my closet, and that's my fault.
so now he's got somebody seen, not just a cracked door.
Where you physically see somebody? Because I saw him running. Like I saw him running.
And then here we go.
Was it he or she or? It was definitely a guy. It was a girl. There wasn't like long hair or anything like that. I mean, yeah.
Wait, let's just stop. I want y'all to understand that this is actually him being interrogated, and they're gonna highlight the difference from what he's saying in the interrogation versus what he said right after the incident on a 911 call.
It was like a mask, and like you can only see the eyes and the mouth. Like he looked like a black guy, but I'm not like 100% positive. I'm pretty sure it's not American. And like, you know, 6 feet, maybe.
An hour and a half of argument from two lawyers, and they never talked about that. You know why? There's no logical argument against that. The reason why we brought that staircase into this courtroom was because that hallway is so narrow. We couldn't bring you to the crime scene, so we tried to show you how narrow it was. It wasn't theatrics, it was reconstruction to aid you. Because when you look there, you don't realize it's 3 feet, 3 inches away. And what does that mean? That means if the defendant was walking down the staircase, he would be as close to me to you and a little bit elevated. Are you, anybody believe in the concept that you would see someone in a ski mask and then by your own admission, immediately call 911 and the first words out of your mouth would be, there's a guy in my house with a ski mask on. There's a guy, my sister's downstairs, I'm worried about her. I just saw someone in a ski mask. Is there any other logical argument other than that person doesn't exist? Mr. Dakota doesn't make any mistakes. But he was in the show. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Sergeant Lawson's on the stand. He gets up on the stairs. He says, "Oh, let's turn out the lights," which actually proves the point. It was a dark house. You would not be able to give that kind of description in that dark house. You can convict the defendant alone on his 911 tape. You know he did it in your gut. You know it just from the 911 tape, but there's so much more. By the way, also the 3 days preceding the murder. It's starting to mount. This is a mountain of evidence. Then on the 911, he says this. How does he know his sister's alive? He hears the gunshots on the second floor.
Again.
How in the world would he know his sister's alive? How would he know to bypass his parents' bedroom? He has to go by their bedroom prior to getting his sister. He knew she was sleeping. See, these are things in an hour and a half argument you should expect from them. But they can't logically have an explanation for it. So instead, you call people desperate. You call people reckless.
Let me stop there. To say myself, that is a little weird for him never to go into the room and see exactly what happened or what's going on. But I know for you to see someone running down the steps, one of the first things I would have did to see what was going on with my family after the person got out. You know, so allegedly, if the person was there. So his actions are very circumstantially suspect. I'm going to be honest.
Instead, you pick on an officer for an answer. You pick on an officer for doodling. Because here we go, dance around, don't pay attention to the evidence. Please don't pay attention to the evidence. Let me bring my handsome client out in the well of the courtroom. Don't pay attention to the evidence. The crime scene itself. The bedroom, the scene of the actual crime, tells us so much. First of all, where the gun case was. On side of Antonio's bed. You know, based on that, it was nobody